2, 3.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Idiomatic Top 3!
With Nicholas, I'm the video correspondent for Idiomatic.
I'm Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. Not that either is relevant, because today we are going to talk comics. X-Men comics, to be specific.
Alright.
We are doing top 3 awful mutant powers.
Cool. I'm up for that.
So, the ground rules... we can't make them up. It has to be in the comics.
Yeah. And they have to be mutants.
And they have to be mutants. It's not just any superpower. It has to be mutants.
Yeah.
And it can't be like a one-issue thing where it's clearly a joke.
Okay.
You know, like, cause, yes, there's Ice Cream.
Yeah.
From the Obnoxio the Clown one-shot. And he's obviously meant to be stupid. That's not fun.
And if you're wondering, his power is that he can turn into any flavored ice cream.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty lame, but he's made to be funny, so I can buy that.
Yeah, that's sort of like making fun of the Psy music video Gangnam Style. It's like, yeah, no, it's ridiculous on purpose. You can laugh with it, but don't laugh at it, because it's already trying to be funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright then, so,
Well, before we start...
Oh, yeah.
I did have to research this a little bit, because I'm not as big of an X-Men, buff as you are. I found my guys with my powers. One that I see on every list that is not going to be on mine, and I keep wondering why, is Jubilee. I think her powers are pretty nasty. She shoots fireworks. Those, blow up people's hands. They can cause a lot of damage. Why do people hate fireworks so much?
Yeah, and she's filming the 4th of July.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a free show for your town.
I think one of the problems with her powers that makes it a little bit less... fun for people. And again, that's not a criticism of the character, because one of the things I should mention is that a lame power doesn't mean a lame character.
Yeah.
There is plenty of awesome characters that have lame powers, because the fact that they have to circumvent their powers makes them more awesome. Rogue is a good example of this. She's not on either of our lists.
Yeah.
But, her power is more of a curse, but that makes her character more interesting.
Yeah.
So, back to Jubilee, though, I think it's the fact that she can't aim that shit worth a shit, right? Because, petards go, all over the place.
Yeah.
know?
I guess it's a close-range weapon. If you really
Yeah, and then you're gonna burn yourself off, It's like,
yeah.
It's like, I attack you, my eye!
That is true. There are certain fireworks that fly straight, nonetheless, but yeah, not...
I don't think hers do, though.
Oh, okay. So they're not really... They're just those little fizzy things that go all the way around.
Yeah, well, because they're not actual fire... It's not like she can, think of a firework model and then reproduce it with her hands. I think it's just, she has, random shit coming out of her hands.
Oh, well, that is lame.
Yeah.
Well, good thing she's a vampire now, I guess.
I'm not a big fan of that storyline, but after House of M... which is the story where the Scarlet Witch recreated the world with a majority of mutants, and then when that story ended, she decimated the mutant population.
Yeah.
That left a lot of long-standing characters without powers, right? Like Jubilee. And then we're well, but we want to make comics about Jubilee because she's sort of a fun character. Oh, I guess we'll have to make her a vampire now so she can do shit.
Who turned her into a vampire all of a sudden?
Another vampire.
Okay. Just
it's a storyline that links to Dracula down the line, but I actually didn't read it. So.
Wow. Okay. Weird.
All right, so let's start our top 3. Why don't you start with your number 3 pick for worst mutant power in an X-Men comic?
Well, it's from a character called Ugly John. Already the name is pretty terrible. Ugly John, why would you call yourself that? But his mutant power is that he has 3 faces. And it's just that, he has 3 faces. And they're pretty much non-functional. It's not like in He-Man, like Men Eat Faces, where, one of them had regular eyes, the other one shot a laser, and the other one was for, very long vision. The guy just has 3 faces. He has 4 eyes. Not glasses, but actually 4 eyes, and just 2 other faces.
And for those of you wondering how 3 faces leads to 4 eyes, is because the eye on the side that connects with the other face is shared with that face it connects with.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is a kooky design, isn't it? Like it's I like the character. Like, okay, for those of you who don't know, he's not an X-Men
No.
fighter or anything. He's a guy who gets rescued by the X-Men at some point in Grant Morrison's run, New X-Men. For those of you wondering,
Okay.
the idea of the character is not for him to have a useful power, so I have no problem with him having a useless power.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's meant to be rescued,
Okay.
But I like the design. It's kooky. It's weird. That's what I like about Grant Morrison's run on the X-Men, which with the penciler Frank Quitely for most of it. It's the idea of creating a mutant subculture that isn't just a bunch of superheroes, but really a bunch of weirdos, which is really at the core of what the X-Men are supposed to be protecting.
I guess, some people, can't shoot lightning. They just have, oh, well, I just look weird and my life sucks because I look weird and I can't even defend myself. The thing is, though, is it really a mutant power? Because I have seen, medical, shows where people have extra faces. So I feel it's kind of weak. It's humans develop that sometimes as well, and they have other faces, other working faces on their body. It's a medical condition. It's weird that they just decided to add that as a mutation. That's why I find it's kind of funny. It's like it barely counts as a mutation to me, because it's a medical condition. It's almost like Siamese, but not quite, So I just found it weird.
It's sad, eh? That must be really hard to live with.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Well, in most Western countries, it can be removed, but in like the poor countries where the hospitals are not as good, you're stuck living with that. So it kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's why I have, there's a lot of people who look down on plastic surgeons.
Yeah.
I was like, but plastic surgeons fix that shit.
Yeah.
That what they do is really important.
I know.
It improves the quality of life of a lot of people that way.
Yeah.
And then there's, of course, a plastic surgery that is just for vanity.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about that as well, is that it's those plastic surgeries that get the funds to fund the other more important plastic surgeries that they can do pro bono as a result. Like, it's actually a really complicated system. It's not easy to just, point a finger at plastic surgeons for that shit.
Yeah, I'm okay with plastic surgery anyway, because it's your body. You do what you want with it.
Yeah, that's true.
If you want to have a bigger lips or, a bigger chest, it's all up to you. It's fine, as long as, I don't have to pay for it, is the thing. Sometimes there are complications. I'm not too fond of, here in Canada, our public system paying for all of that, but that's just, it happens so rarely. It's fine. So do what you want with your body. It's
an acceptable loss for me as far as I'm concerned.
I guess, because when you mentioned, you think about it, that they actually help, young kids that have problems like that, or, many face people. Yeah, I can deal.
Yeah, exactly. Total. I turned this into a bummer, everybody.
No.
That's what I did. Alright, my number 3 pick is from the original Deadpool series, I should say. Ongoing, because there are too many series before that, but the run by Gail Simone, and she created, when the book turned into a title called Agent X, a character called Mary Zero.
Okay.
And her power is that nobody remembers her ever, or anything that she writes about herself. Like, her identity is something that is constantly elusive, so that Deadpool/Agent X is the only person that can even talk to her or see her.
How is he immune?
Because he's insane.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Because he's essentially has this, advanced form of ADD, if you will. So he doesn't remember anything for very long periods. So he's actually more adept at remembering her.
Okay, that's cool.
God, that must suck.
What does she do for a living?
She steals shit because nobody ever remembers her. She just takes things.
That makes sense. Even if they get her on camera, they're like, we don't know who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
That is spectacular. I want that power.
Oh God, no! Oh, the loneliness, the comic book plays on that, the loneliness that comes with it. When she finds Agent X, who can see her, she just gravitates towards him and is like, "My God, this is the man of my life. I'm never letting go of this guy."
That is cool.
No, it's a well-written character. It's a fun comic book run. If you guys want to see it, it's actually one of those must-buys if you're a fan of Deadpool at all. But yeah, that power has to suck. Like, I think that must be really hellish. Like, not ever being acknowledged or remembered by anyone ever.
Depends on your character, I guess. If you like to be alone, but no, I understand. To me, it's actually cool concept for a power. It's just, it sucks for her, you know?
Yeah. It is a cool concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So
maybe not a great choice on my part.
it depends, because I do agree that it's a sucky power for her. Kind of like Rogue, but I guess even worse, because, you know, people remember Rogue at least. Rogue can talk to, she can't touch them, but she can at least talk to them and, you know, have meaningful relationship with them. She can only deal with Deadpool all the time, so it really sucks for her. But I do find the character pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gail Simone is one of the best comic books writer, and to think that she started her career interviewing comic books writers about women in refrigerators, which is the idea that female characters being shortchanged in comics to bolster the pathos of the male hero.
Okay.
Like, she started that website and interviewed people and then became a comic book writer from there. And to see that she turned out such a talented writer and so full of really wild, fun ideas like this is pretty crazy.
But didn't she just create a character that's forgotten? So isn't that kind of a metaphor for, I don't know, for the woman in the comic book? It's weird.
I think the word "I don't know" probably sums up why. All right. What is your number 2 pick, sir?
My number 2 pick is a mutant called El Guapo, who is psychically linked to a skateboard. The skateboard does whatever he wants. If he's far away from his skateboard for too long, his health starts to deteriorate. But when he's with his skateboard, he can do stunts, he can levitate, he can do cool moves, I guess.
For those of you wondering where that character is from, he is from Peter Milligan's run on X-Force, which became X-Statix, around the same period that Agent X actually came out. And
that's surprising. I would expect that to be in the late 80s, that character.
Yeah, no. But like, what you have to understand about the X-Force X-Statix Peter Milligan run is that it's full of just like insanity. It's a run that's meant to be taken very sarcastically.
Okay.
His take on X-Force was not the Cable and paramilitary X-Men thing. A corporation has essentially created their own X-Men for celebrity culture. They're the sort of the reality show version of X-Men.
Wow.
Because with the growing number of mutants, being a mutant was cool. It's sort of counterculture and edgy. The way that we, you know, for a time in the 90s we viewed rap, you know? So that's what he was making fun of. He was making fun of reality TV shows. He was making fun of that idea of black athletes as superstars, but completely disrespected as human beings, the same way the mutants are disrespected as human beings, but they can be superstars as part of that X-Force / X-Statix unit.
Oh, interesting.
And to emphasize this point, he would have the roster constantly rotating as people die on a daily basis in that squad.
Oh, wow.
And would just bombard us with stupid mutants to make the thing even funnier and more absurd. So El Guapo was one of those stupid mutants.
It's good to have, you know, comic book artists have, you know, fun new ideas like that instead of just, you know, trying to hotshot, you know, oh, this character is going to die or this character is going to, you know, this is the origin of this new ultimate character. And it's like, no, let's just do some crazy shit. And I like that.
Oh, yeah, no, and if you like that, you're going to love that run. And, like, El Guapo is just one of many absurd mutants in that series. I mean, this is a series that gave us Dupe. I don't know if you know who Dupe is.
No.
He's a green flying ball with 2 yellow eyes who holds a camera, and he's the cameraman for X-Force. And the running joke is that, A, he doesn't speak English, French, or anything, so he has his own language, and his, like, speech bubbles actually are an encoded thing that you can encode yourself if you figured out the key.
Oh, wow.
And he does say things. And the second thing is that he's been around for so long, he knows everyone in the Marvel Universe, sort of like Wolverine, but like, except he's a green ball, so that's just stupid. And the comics run with that joke. It's so funny. He had a miniseries with Wolverine where they all act like they've been buddies since the olden days. But it's like, he's a green fucking ball who came out of nowhere.
Wow. He probably met them between World War One, World War Two, and there was the lull there. He was not with Sabretooth or something. Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, no, it's that run is amazing, and El Guapo is just an excellent example of just the insanity that you'll find in that run.
Nice. All right.
Okay, now I'm going to go into flat out lame from then on.
All right.
So my number 2 pick for worst X-Men mutant power goes to Maggot, a character from the 90s whose power is that his digestive system is 2 metallic leeches that come out of his body and eat shit.
Okay. I guess it could be useful. You know what? You don't have time to eat. You just send your leeches out, and you keep doing what you need to do. And, you can do 2 things at once.
Yeah, and the leeches can attack people because they're giant leeches.
Oh, they're giant? How do they fit in his body?
I'm not sure.
How do they attack people? Can't people just kick them or step on them?
Yeah. Also, their size was sort of kept changing depending on the artist, too. They were half the size of a human being sometimes a quarter. Who knows?
It depends on how hungry he is, I'm guessing.
But it's not the only thing that kept changing with Maggot. His character kept changing.
Okay.
He was introduced by Joe Madureira, who's an artist, not a writer. And as the coolest as shit henchman of Magneto's. He was a mercenary that worked for Magneto's, and he was so cool and shit. But his power is so fucking dumb that the next writer after that went no, he's an overcompensating young guy who feels kind of lame. Until he was unceremoniously killed in Weapon X in the early aughts.
What happened? Juggernaut step on his leeches or something?
They put him in a concentration camp, and I hate it when X-Men comics go with the concentration camp route because it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable, and B, I think there are more interesting versions of racism to discuss than the flat out obvious no one can deny that was awful one.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You're right. A little more subtle,
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, well. Really, really a sad fate for a character that just did not start off well at all.
I guess not. I would still like to have that power, because like I said, you do other stuff while you're eating, It's perfectly serviceable.
I like the taste thing.
Oh, he doesn't taste?
Well, I'm assuming not. It's fucking leeches.
Well, maybe the leeches taste, and then they give the information.
Yeah, well, considering what they eat, then
what the hell?
Because he attacks people with it.
Oh God!
So
Oh, that's terrible. So he eats his enemies?
I mean, that's pretty much the idea behind him, yeah.
Oh my God. That's kind of violent for, maybe when he's attacking robots, I can
Yeah, well, I was going to say, his enemies being an X-Men is often Sentinels, so it's not the end of the world.
Alright, Yeah, I'm taking a bite out of the blob,
Ooh, yeah, I don't want to... See, that I wouldn't want to taste.
There would be hurdles to overcome.
Yeah. He doesn't seem to be gaining weight, so that's a good thing,
Oh my God, larger and larger. Yeah, that'd be funny.
After eating a robot, do you become fat and have cholesterol problems, or what? What happens?
Iron overdose or something?
Yeah, exactly. What happens with that? There's no cholesterol in milk. What am I talking about? Iron. Yeah, that's a better.
They're gluten free. It's all good.
All right. What is your number 1 pick for awful X-Men power?
So my number 1 is Cypher, whose power is that he understands languages. I don't know. I see comic books as an action-y kind of thing. Somebody that can, talk different languages in battle doesn't seem that great to me. I know he can be useful to the team in certain ways, but I just don't see understanding languages as something that's super capital. So for a character that's kind of, very mainstream as opposed to my other 2 choices, I think it's a pretty lame power.
Well, he's a very beloved character on
Really?
top of being very mainstream. Now, for those of you who don't know, he's from the New Mutants run in the 80s by Chris Claremont, the original run. And yeah, the idea was that he had an inferiority complex because of that.
Okay.
Because his powers did not allow for fighting. Very well, he was beloved by his teammates and valued by his teammates, but he himself did not value himself because he always felt that he didn't pull his weight as much as the other team members.
Okay.
And in there was an interesting comment about how comics themselves, the X-Men lifestyle, if you will, glorifies violence. Here you have a guy with the sort of power that Charles Xavier should value and should love and should use. I mean, like, what a wonderful diplomat that kid would make, you know?
Yeah.
And all of that thing. And certainly the school is trying to raise him for that, but, like, they're also raising soldiers, X-Men, superheroes. And they trade punches, not words. And
Yeah.
it was an interesting comment about, like, how, an intellectual peacemaking power has become useless in the comics universe, and there's something disturbing about the values that implies.
I don't know. You read comics for escapism. You know, it's so I could see. I read my comics, you know, for the action. I guess you can have good stories with other things. You're right. So I would see, but I see your point completely. That yeah, it is sad that you kind of value violence there. I just think that he still sort of got shortchanged as well. You know, it's just.
Well, I think it makes for a great character.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
a good character I can see. You're right. You know.
And what's interesting, though, is that later writers revived him because they eventually killed him. Because, again, it's sort of a tragedy. This kid can't fight. Professor X and then Magneto and all the people keep throwing him in battle situations. That's not what his power is about. You know
Why
what I
would
mean?
they throw him in battle?
Well, because he's part of the team, right?
Oh my god!
and then he dies. And then it's sort of like, you're looking at it, and there's a legitimate argument for, like, you had there a gold mine as a person and as a potential diplomat with powers and everything.
Yeah.
A scientist. Can you imagine a scientist who can switch languages and incorporate researchers from all over the world? He'd be great, you know?
Yeah.
And then you waste him on a battlefield and then he gets killed and, like, maybe you're irresponsible, Professor X. Maybe your school is shit, you know?
Yeah, it's a good point. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So, you know, it made for a great story. His death was an important moment. It's a great story, but eventually, as comics are comics, he was eventually resurrected.
Okay.
And the latest incarnation of him takes the completely opposite route, but it also works in an interesting way. The idea being that language is not just a grammar and a vocabulary.
Okay.
Language is computer language.
Yeah.
A language is body language. Language is all kinds of nonverbal language aside from body language.
Okay.
Intonations, inflections, all communicate something. And if he can translate that as well, then he becomes the most powerful guy on earth. Because, A, you can't lie to that guy because he reads your inflections. He knows what you're thinking. He's like a telepath at this point. He also can speak your language, which means he can lie to you like the best of them. He can tell when you're suspicious. He can tell when you're not suspicious. He can tell when he's got you. He can tell what you need to hear to feel reassured.
Okay.
And so he became sort of this master manipulator. The guy you can't lie to. You can't tell what he's thinking because he's always going to say the right thing to you because he understands emotional language as well as everything else.
Is he still a good guy?
Actually, he oscillated between the two during that run.
Yeah, because I can see that being kind of a bad guy thing as well. Bad guy popper. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was used like that for a while, you know.
Okay.
And then there's the computer things. Everything is technology now. Give that guy internet access. He can do anything.
I have an issue with that because knowing the computer language doesn't mean you can program, but
he can because the same way that it's not just that he knows French, he can speak it. That's his power.
Okay.
So it's not just that he knows the computer language. He can apply it.
Okay. All right. I guess if they say it that way, because all right.
And then they made him into like the most disturbingly powerful guy in the world with what during the 80s.
Yeah.
His story was about having the lamest power in the world.
But that lamest power made him for, interesting character.
Yeah.
Now I don't know, he seems quite powerful. Is he as interesting? Or is he
He's interesting in the completely opposite way. It becomes a story about, like, how does that guy interpret the world when he can have access to all information, any information, at a moment's notice, where nobody can lie to him, where nobody can hide their emotions from him. Okay. He understands everything, and that puts a lot of pressure on him. It's the same idea as being able to read people's minds suck. It's sort of that same idea, you know?
All right.
And he can't turn it off.
Oh, that kind of sucks, though.
You know, because he speaks emotional language. He's hearing you, and you're like, oh, you're upset at me for something that's completely irrational. That's what he hears. He can't help it.
Alright, I shall revise my choice to 80s Cypher.
But it's interesting how this, what was written as to be the ultimate lame power 25 years later, roughly, became, the shits,
That is true.
And it's because we've shifted into the information age.
Yeah.
And suddenly understanding all information became, that's power now, whereas it wasn't power in the 80s.
Yeah.
It shows how much we've changed as a society.
That is interesting. So what is your number one?
My number one pick, maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't agree with me, but I think not only did I pick a lame power, I picked a lame character too.
Alright.
This character came out in X-Force Annual number 2, I think, if I remember correctly. I didn't actually do my homework. I'm going from memory, so if I have it right, you have confirmation that I am a gigantic nerd.
You're more of a geek, but yes.
I'm talking about Extreme. That's his name. He was from the 90s. That was actually his name. And it's not even spelled Extreme. It's spelled X-Treme.
Wow. That is quite lame.
He's so awful. His name it would make an awful name for an X-Men crossover.
Who would you cross the crossover with? X-Men and...
but like Extreme Sanction would be the name of the...
Alright, I can see that. Alright.
Yeah. So Extreme, who's half human, half Shi'ar mutant.
Okay.
Who lived in outer space and yet has a backwards baseball cap as part of his costume.
That's spectacular.
How did he manage that? Nobody knows. His power, yes, I know I'm like stretching this bitch out, but his power is that he can electrocute your blood if it's oxygenated.
What?
What that means is that he can like fry your blood and make you pass out. But first he has to cut you so that he has access to said blood.
But your blood is always oxygenated.
I know.
That's what blood is.
No, but I think what they mean, though, and is that it has to be in contact with air.
Okay, alright.
Yeah, no, blood carries oxygen. I don't know why they use oxygen.
You'd think for somebody that lives in space, oxygen would not be part of his... I don't know.
I mean, you don't choose your mutant power. That's part of the mutant thing. That part I'm fine with.
Alright, yeah.
But it's just the sheer... Like, how do you find that out? And how do you go like, okay... Well, when I cut this guy, I can electrocute him, but when I don't cut him, I can't. Like, how does your brain make that conclusion? And then he decides I'm going to carry knives around that I can throw at people. That way, when they bleed, I can electrocute them. Or you can just stab them with the knives.
He doesn't want to kill them. He just want to, knock them out. That's what it is. I guess he tried to use his power one day on a big group of people. He noticed only the people that bled, that were bleeding in the fight, he never knocked out, so he just... added 2 and 2 together, and he was like, wait a second. I'm not sure how he knew he had mutant powers to begin with, but that's special. That's bad science, bad power, bad name, all combined together to form a trifecta of terrible.
No, it's even better. It's even better.
Oh, really?
Bad continuity.
Oh my god.
Back in the 90s, I believe this was Fabian Nicieza introduced the idea of a third Summers brother. There was Scott, who's Cyclops, Alex, who's Havoc, and then a third one that Mr. Sinister is aware of.
Okay.
And then, they never resolved that plotline. And then later they show up in space, and in space they're Extreme.
Yeah.
Whose real name is Adam X, because that's even better.
My god.
When he was created, the idea was that he was the third Summers brother, son of Corsair, the Cyclops' father, who lost his wife, of course, to the Shi'ar, and some Shi'ar woman that he eventually hooked up with. The question becomes then, if that's the case, how the fuck does Mr. Sinister back on Earth know about him? Nothing about this character is in any way, legible, really.
My god. That's why you don't create, superheroes just for the time. I think it's kind of weak, you know. It's like, oh, he's going to be cool now because this is cool now. And, you know, if you're going to do that, kill him as soon as the fad is over, is what I say.
Well, I feel that it's okay to, like, I think as comic book fans, we're used to the idea of superheroes lasting forever.
Okay.
But there's no reason why that has to be true. I mean, TV shows don't last forever, and we like these characters while they're there.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm okay with a character that is of his time and then never use him ever again.
Yeah,
you know
that's good. I'm leaving for the next galaxy. I will never see you again. Farewell.
Yeah. When he's, like, you know, when he's starting to get lame, you know, like when we switch from skateboards to rollerblade, El Guapo, if he had been created not as an ironic character, but as a real character, would have gone like, I'm going to skateboard into the sunset now. You know?
Yes.
Alright, that's it for us. If you want to share with us your favorite lame mutant X-Men power, you can write us at mail@idiomanic.com or post a comment at idiomanic.com. We're also on Facebook, we're also on Twitter, we're also on iTunes. If you could write us an iTunes review, we would be very grateful. It allows us to get the support we need to continue generating content. Until next time.
See you later.